17 months. That's how long it had been since Lisa walked out of her own front door and didn't come back. Not because she was taken, not because something terrible happened to her. She just left. One quiet Tuesday morning in October, she packed a small bag, wrote a note, and disappeared from the lives of the 3 people who needed her most. Her husband Tom woke up that morning expecting a normal day. Coffee brewing, kids rushing around getting ready for school, the usual chaos of a weekday morning. Instead, he found silence. An empty bed beside him, a piece of paper on the kitchen counter that simply said she needed time to figure herself out. That she loved them, that they shouldn't worry or try to find her. How do you not worry when the person you've built your entire life with just vanishes? How do you explain that to your kids? Tom stood in that kitchen for what felt like hours, reading those few lines over and over, trying to make sense of words that made no sense at all. Their daughter Rachel came downstairs first, already dressed for school, earbuds in her ears. She was 16 then, right at that age where she was caught between being a kid and becoming an adult. She pulled out one earbud and asked where Mom was. Tom didn't know what to say. He handed her the note, watched her face change from confusion to disbelief, to something that looked like betrayal. Rachel read it twice, then placed it back on the counter very carefully, like it might explode if she wasn't gentle with it. Their son Daniel was 13, still young enough to need his mom for things he wouldn't admit to his friends, still at that age where home was supposed to be the safe place, the constant thing in a world that was already confusing enough. When he came down and they told him, he just went quiet. Didn't cry, didn't yell, just nodded and went back upstairs to his room. The first week was the hardest. Tom called everyone he could think of. Lisa's sister didn't know anything. Her best friend hadn't heard from her. He filed a missing person report, but the police said there wasn't much they could do. She was an adult. She left a note. There was no sign of danger or force. People have the right to leave if they want to. But what about the people they leave behind? Don't they have rights too? Tom tried to keep everything normal for the kids. He still went to work at his architecture firm, though he couldn't focus on designing buildings when his own home was falling apart. He made dinners that nobody really ate. He helped with homework and drove to practices and signed permission slips. All the things Lisa used to do, he now did alone. Rachel stopped talking about her mom after the first month. If someone asked, she'd say her mother was away, traveling, working, anything but the truth. Because how do you tell your friends that your mom just decided one day that being a mother wasn't enough? That you weren't enough? She threw herself into everything. Student council, volleyball team, volunteering at the local animal shelter. Anything to fill the time to not be home in that house that felt empty even when they were all there. She took on responsibilities that weren't hers to carry. Started doing the grocery shopping. Made sure Daniel had clean clothes for school. Became a mother to her own brother because someone had to. And Tom saw it happening. Saw his teenage daughter growing up too fast. Taking on burdens that were breaking her even as she pretended to be strong. But what could he do? He was drowning too, trying to keep all of them afloat. Daniel handled it differently. He got quieter, spent hours in his room with his guitar, writing songs he never showed anyone. Music became his language when words failed him. Tom would hear melodies drifting through the door, sad and haunting, filled with emotions his son couldn't express any other way. The neighbors didn't know what to say. At first, they brought casseroles and offered help. But as weeks turned into months, the casseroles stopped coming. The offers dried up. The Mitchells became that family. You know the one. The family people whispered about at neighborhood gatherings. The one with the wife who just walked away. Tom kept Lisa's things exactly as she left them. Her coffee mug, the blue one with the chip on the handle that she refused to throw away, stayed on the counter. Her side of the closet remained full of her clothes. Her toothbrush in the bathroom. Part of him thought maybe if everything was still here waiting, she'd come back. Part of him couldn't bear to erase the evidence that she'd existed here at all. Friends didn't know how to act around him. Some stopped calling altogether. Others were too careful, like he might break if they said the wrong thing. A few tried to set him up with other women, which felt wrong in ways he couldn't explain. He was still married. His wife had left, but she hadn't left him. Not officially. She was just somewhere else, being someone else, living some life that didn't include them. The holidays were brutal. Thanksgiving without her felt like going through motions. Christmas was worse. They put up a tree because they always put up a tree, but nobody's heart was in it. The presents under the tree seemed pointless. Rachel bought something for her mother anyway, wrapped it carefully and placed it with the others. Nobody mentioned it. On Christmas morning, that one wrapped box sat there unopened, and they all pretended not to see it. People move on, though. That's what people do. They adapt. They survive. By the time a year had passed, life had found a new rhythm. Not a good rhythm. Not the one they wanted, but a rhythm nonetheless. Tom learned to cook more than just basic meals. Rachel got her driver's license and started helping with Daniel's pickups and drop-offs. Daniel's music got better, more complex, like he was pouring all his pain into creating something beautiful from it. They stopped waiting for her to walk back through the door. Stopped jumping every time the phone rang, hoping it would be her. The sharp pain of her absence dulled into something they could live with, like an old injury that aches when it rains but doesn't stop you from walking. But they never forgot. How could they? Every family dinner had an empty chair. Every holiday had a missing piece. Every milestone moment had a shadow over it because she should have been there and wasn't. Tom sometimes wondered where she was. What she was doing. If she thought about them. If she regretted leaving or felt relieved to be free. He wondered if she'd found whatever she was looking for. If there even was something to find, or if she was just running from something she couldn't name. He wasn't angry anymore. Anger takes energy, and he needed all his energy just to get through each day. He wasn't sad anymore either. Not in that sharp, cutting way he was at first. Now it was just a dull ache. A permanent companion he'd learned to live with. Rachel stopped being angry too, though it took longer. She built walls around herself, careful about who she let in, always waiting for people to leave. Because if your own mother can walk away, anyone can. Daniel never seemed angry at all, just sad. His music reflected it, full of longing and loss and questions without answers. They were surviving. Moving forward, building a life around the hole she'd left. And then, 17 months after she walked out, Tom's phone rang. It was a Tuesday evening in March, the kind of evening where winter was finally letting go and spring was just starting to hint at its arrival. Tom was in his home office reviewing blueprints for a client project when his phone buzzed on the desk. Unknown number. He almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. Something made him answer. Maybe instinct. Maybe fate. Maybe just bad timing. Hello? Silence on the other end. Not dead silence, but the kind where someone's there breathing, trying to find words. Tom? His heart stopped. Actually stopped. He knew that voice. Knew it better than his own. 17 months of silence, and suddenly there it was, coming through his phone like she'd never left. Lisa. He couldn't make it a question. Couldn't make it anything but a statement of impossible fact. I'm here. In town. At the bus station downtown. Her voice was different somehow. Softer maybe, or harder. He couldn't tell. I'd like to come home. If that's okay. If you'll let me. 1,000 responses fought for space in his mind. Where have you been? Why now? How dare you? Please come back. I hate you. I love you. I don't know who you are anymore. What came out was, I'll be there in 20 minutes. He hung up. Sat there staring at his phone like it was an alien object. His hands were shaking. His heart was racing. 17 months of learning to live without her. And now she was back. Just like that. A phone call and everything was upside down again. He didn't tell the kids. Couldn't find the words. What would he say? Your mother called, she's back, but I don't know for how long or why or what this means. What if she changed her mind before he got there? What if this was just another goodbye? Tom grabbed his keys and drove. The bus station was on the south side of town. A 20-minute drive he made in 15. His mind was racing faster than the car. He tried to prepare himself to think of what he'd say, how he'd act, but preparation was impossible. How do you prepare for something like this? The bus station parking lot was nearly empty. He pulled into a spot and sat there for a moment, engine running, trying to steady himself. Through the glass doors of the station, he could see people moving around inside, and then he saw her, sitting on a bench near the back, alone, a small backpack beside her. She looked different, thinner, like she'd lost weight she didn't need to lose. Her hair was longer, past her shoulders now and streaked with more gray than he remembered. She wore clothes he'd never seen before, a worn jacket and jeans that looked like they'd seen better days. But it was her. Unmistakably her. Tom got out of the car and walked toward the entrance. Each step felt heavy, like moving through water. He pushed through the glass doors. The station smelled like floor cleaner and old coffee. Lisa looked up and saw him. Their eyes met across the space. She stood slowly, like she wasn't sure her legs would hold her. Picked up her backpack. Started walking toward him. They met in the middle of the station, surrounded by strangers who had no idea they were witnessing something monumental. "Hi," she said. Such a small word for such a big moment. "Hi," he replied. They stood there, neither knowing what came next. Should they hug?
Shake hands?
Stand at a distance? Everything felt wrong and right at the same time. "Thank you for coming," Lisa said. "I wasn't sure you would. Where else would I be?" Tom's voice came out rougher than he intended. She nodded. Looked down at her feet. "Can we go?"
Can we talk in the car?
They walked out together, not touching, maintaining a careful distance. Tom opened the passenger door for her out of habit, years of muscle memory taking over. She got in. He closed the door gently and walked around to the driver's side. The drive home was strange. They talked, but not about anything real. Safe topics. The weather was warming up. Traffic wasn't bad for rush hour. The old bakery on 5th Street had closed down. Small talk between two people who used to share everything, who now shared nothing but history and hurt. Tom wanted to ask everything. Where were you? Why did you leave? What happened? Why come back now? But the questions felt too big for the confines of the car. And maybe he was afraid of the answers. Maybe not knowing was easier than knowing. Lisa kept glancing at him like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Her hands fidgeted in her lap, picking at the hem of her jacket. Nervous habits he recognized from years of marriage. "Are the kids home?" she finally asked as they turned onto their street. "Rachel's probably at volleyball practice. Daniel should be home." Tom's voice was steady, but his hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. "I didn't tell them you called." "I wasn't sure if I should," she nodded. "Maybe that's better. Let me talk to them myself." He pulled into their driveway. The house looked the same as it always had. White siding, blue shutters, the maple tree in the front yard just starting to bud. Home. But was it still her home? Tom turned off the engine. Neither of them moved. "I know this is hard," Lisa said quietly. "I know I have no right to just show up and expect anything. I need to try. I need to see if there's anything left to salvage." 17 months, Lisa, 17 months without a word. "I know. Do you? Do you know what it was like? Do you know what you did to them? To us?" She closed her eyes. "I'm starting to understand." Tom got out of the car. Lisa followed. They walked to the front door together. Two strangers who used to be everything to each other. Tom unlocked the door and stepped inside, leaving it open behind him. He could hear Daniel's guitar upstairs, a melody he'd been working on for weeks, sad and beautiful. Tom walked through to the kitchen, needing something to do with his hands. He filled the kettle and put it on the stove. Tea. They'd have tea. Because what else do you do when your world turns upside down? Lisa stood in the doorway. Not inside, not outside. In between. Like she couldn't decide if she had the right to cross the threshold into a home she'd abandoned. Tom glanced back at her. "You coming in?" Before she could answer, they both heard it. The front door opening. Footsteps in the hallway. Rachel's voice calling out that she forgot her water bottle. And then silence. The kind of silence that means everything has changed. Time has a strange way of moving in moments like these. Sometimes it speeds up, rushing past before you can catch your breath. Sometimes it slows to a crawl, each second stretching into an eternity. For Lisa, standing in that doorway, time did both at once. Rachel stood frozen in the hallway, volleyball bag slung over her shoulder, water bottle in hand. She'd clearly just grabbed it from the kitchen and was heading back out. Now she stood there, staring at the woman in the doorway like she was seeing a ghost, because in a way she was. Lisa looked at her daughter and felt her heart break all over again. The girl she'd left behind 17 months ago had been 16, still caught in that awkward space between childhood and adulthood. The young woman standing before her now was different. Taller somehow, though that might just be how she held herself. Her hair was shorter, cut into a practical style that didn't need much maintenance. She stood with her weight balanced, shoulders back, chin up. Athletic, strong, guarded. Mom. The word came out flat, emotionless. A statement of fact rather than greeting. "Hi, sweetheart." Lisa's voice cracked on the last word. She wanted to move forward, to hug her daughter, but something in Rachel's eyes stopped her cold. Rachel's jaw tightened. Her hand gripped the water bottle so hard her knuckles turned white. For a long moment she just stared, like she was trying to decide if her mother was real or some cruel trick her mind was playing on her. "You can't just—" Rachel started, then stopped, took a breath, started again. "You can't just show up here and expect everything to be okay." "I know," Lisa said softly. "Do you?" Rachel's voice rose slightly, emotion cracking through the careful control. "Do you really know what it was like? Do you have any idea?" Lisa opened her mouth to respond, but Rachel wasn't done. Dad cried. "Did you know that?" I could hear him at night in the bathroom with the water running, thinking nobody could hear. But I heard everything. Each word was a knife. Lisa felt them all. Daniel stopped talking, just completely shut down. He writes these songs now, these heartbreaking songs about being left behind, about not being enough, about wondering what he did wrong. He was 13, Mom, 13, and he thought it was his fault you left. "Rachel, I never meant— and me?" Rachel's eyes were shining now. Tears she was fighting hard to keep from falling. "I had to become the mom. I had to make sure Daniel had clean clothes and food and someone to talk to. I had to watch Dad fall apart and pretend I wasn't falling apart too. I had to explain to everyone at school why my mother just decided one day that we weren't worth staying for." "That's not what happened," Lisa said, but her voice was weak. Because how could she explain? How could she make a 17-year-old understand something she barely understood herself? Then what did happen? Where were you? What was so important that you had to leave your own children? Lisa had spent months preparing for this moment, thinking about what she'd say, how she'd explain. But now, standing here facing her daughter's pain, all those prepared words disappeared. "I got lost," she said simply. "I lost myself somewhere along the way, and I didn't know how to find my way back while I was still here." "That doesn't make sense," Rachel shot back. "You don't find yourself by abandoning your family. You don't fix yourself by breaking everyone else." She was right. Of course she was right. Lisa knew that. Had known it even as she walked out the door all those months ago. But knowing something and being able to do something about it are two different things. "I know I hurt you," Lisa said. "I know I hurt all of you. And I know saying I'm sorry isn't enough. It'll never be enough, but I am sorry. More than you can possibly know." Rachel shook her head slowly. "Sorry doesn't give me back the last year and a half. Sorry doesn't undo all the nights I cried myself to sleep wondering what I did wrong. Sorry doesn't fix the fact that I can't trust anyone anymore, because if my own mother could leave, anyone can." The words hit Lisa like physical blows. This was her daughter, her baby girl, and she'd done this to her. She'd caused this pain, this damage, this inability to trust. "You didn't do anything wrong," Lisa said, tears streaming down her face now. "None of you did. This was about me, about things that were broken in me long before you were born." "Then you should have gotten help," Rachel said. "You should have talked to someone. Talked to Dad, talked to anyone. You had options. You chose to leave." She was right again. Lisa had chosen this. She'd made the decision to walk out that door. And now she had to live with the consequences of that choice. "I have to go," Rachel said suddenly, shifting her volleyball bag on her shoulder. "I have practice." "Rachel, wait. No." Rachel's voice was firm. "I can't do this right now. I can't stand here and pretend like this is okay or normal or something I can just process in 5 minutes. You've been gone for 17 months. You don't get to show up and demand my time and attention and forgiveness in one conversation." She moved toward the door, toward where her mother still stood on the threshold. For a moment they were close enough that Lisa could smell her daughter's shampoo. It was different. A different brand than she used to use. Another small change. Another piece of the life Lisa had missed. Their shoulders almost touched as Rachel passed, but not quite. Rachel was careful not to make contact, like touching might break something neither of them could handle breaking right now. Lisa caught the scent of the new shampoo and felt another wave of loss. How many other small things had changed? How many moments had she missed? How many pieces of her children's lives had continued without her, growing and changing and becoming different while she was away finding herself? Rachel reached the door, then stopped. Didn't turn around, but paused with her hand on the doorframe. "I'm glad you're not dead," she said quietly. "There were days I wondered. Days I thought maybe something terrible had happened and that's why you never called. And as angry as I am, as much as I want to hate you right now, I'm glad you're alive." Then she was gone. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Lisa heard her daughter's car start up a moment later, heard the sound of it backing down the driveway and disappearing down the street. She stood there in the doorway, neither in nor out, unable to move. From the kitchen behind her, she could hear the kettle starting to whistle. Tom would be making tea. From upstairs, Daniel's guitar had gone silent. He'd heard everything. Of course he had. How could he not? Her son knew she was here now, and he hadn't come down, hadn't rushed to see her, hadn't called out. The silence from upstairs was somehow louder than Rachel's anger had been. Lisa felt the weight of what she'd done settle over her like a heavy blanket. This was real now. Not theoretical, not imagined. Real pain in real people she loved more than anything. Pain she'd caused. She still couldn't step inside, couldn't move forward. The doorway held her trapped between the past and whatever came next. How long can a person stand in a doorway? Minutes? Hours? It felt like forever, but the sun hadn't moved much in the sky. Maybe it had been 10 minutes, maybe 15. Lisa couldn't tell. Time had become elastic, stretching and compressing in ways that made no sense. She could see into the house from where she stood. The living room looked mostly the same. Same couch, same coffee table, same pictures on the wall, but it felt different, colder somehow. Or maybe that was just her, projecting her own feelings onto neutral furniture and walls. The house had learned to exist without her. She could feel it in the air and the way things were arranged. Everything was neater than she remembered, more organized, like someone had taken the chaos of family life and imposed order on it through sheer force of will. That someone was probably Tom, learning to manage a household he'd never managed alone before. In the kitchen, she could hear him moving around. The kettle had stopped whistling. She heard cabinet doors opening and closing. The clink of mugs on the counter. Normal sounds of normal life, but nothing about this was normal. Upstairs, Daniel's guitar stayed silent. That worried her more than if he'd kept playing. The silence meant he was listening, thinking, processing. Her 13-year-old son, no, he was 15 now, was up there trying to figure out what to do with the fact that his mother had returned. She wanted to go up to him. Wanted to knock on his door and see his face and hold him close. But she'd forfeited that right when she left. She knew that. Just because she'd come back didn't mean she got to just step back into being mom. That role wasn't sitting empty waiting for her. The family had reorganized around her absence. They'd found ways to function without her. She was the disruption now, not the glue holding things together. From her spot in the doorway, Lisa could see Tom through the kitchen entrance. He stood at the counter, 2 mugs in front of him, tea bags steeping. His shoulders were tense. His movements were careful and deliberate, like he was using the simple task of making tea to keep himself grounded. 17 months ago, she'd known this man better than she knew herself. Every habit, every gesture, every expression. Now he felt like a stranger. Or maybe she was the stranger. Maybe she'd changed so much in her time away that she couldn't recognize the familiar anymore. Tom had aged. Not dramatically, but she could see it in the set of his jaw, the way he held himself. He looked tired, worn down, like he'd been carrying weight that was too heavy for one person, but he'd done it anyway because he had no choice. She'd done that to him. Added years to his face, put that weariness in his posture, taken the man she'd loved and broken something essential in him. The guilt was crushing, physical, like hands around her throat making it hard to breathe. She'd spent months away working on herself, figuring out her own issues, finding her own path, and she'd thought that made it okay somehow, thought that if she came back whole, everything else could be made whole too. But she was starting to realize that her wholeness had come at the cost of breaking everyone else. Then she heard it. Footsteps on the stairs, slow, deliberate steps. Someone coming down. Daniel. Her heart started racing. She pressed back against the door frame, suddenly unsure. Rachel's anger she could understand. Rachel was old enough to articulate her pain, to throw it at her mother like weapons. But Daniel was still so young. What would she see in his eyes? He appeared at the bottom of the stairs, taller than she remembered. His face had changed too, losing some of that boyish softness, He wore an old band t-shirt and jeans, his hair a little too long and falling into his eyes. He looked like Tom had at that age, the same features starting to emerge. Daniel stopped when he saw her. They stood there looking at each other across the length of the hallway. Neither spoke. The silence stretched out between them, heavy with everything that couldn't be said. His eyes were different from Rachel's. No anger there. Just questions. So many questions that he didn't know how to ask. Why did you leave? Why did you come back? Why didn't you call? Why didn't you write? Did you think about us? Did you miss us? Did you love us enough to hurt this much while you were gone? Lisa wanted to answer all those unspoken questions, but she didn't know where to start. Every answer felt inadequate. Every explanation fell short. Daniel didn't move closer. Didn't back away. Just stood there studying her like he was trying to match the memory of his mother with the reality of the woman in the doorway, seeing if they were the same person or if she'd become someone else entirely. "Hi, honey," Lisa managed to whisper. He didn't respond, just kept looking at her with those eyes that held too much understanding for a 15-year-old. He'd grown up in her absence, been forced to grow up faster than he should have. Another thing she'd taken from him. Then Daniel did something unexpected. He turned and walked to the coat closet in the hallway, opened it, reached inside and pulled something out. Lisa's old cardigan. The gray one with the wooden buttons. She'd forgotten about it. Left it behind with everything else, but someone had kept it. Hadn't packed it away or donated it or thrown it out. It had been hanging in the coat closet all this time, waiting. Daniel held the cardigan for a moment, running his fingers over the soft fabric. Then he walked toward her slowly, stopped about 5 feet away, held it out to her. It wasn't a gift. It wasn't forgiveness. It was something else. Acknowledgement, maybe. Recognition that she still belonged to this place somehow, even if her place in it had changed. Even if they didn't know yet what that place would look like going forward. Lisa took the cardigan with shaking hands. The fabric was soft and familiar. It smelled like home, like the laundry detergent they used. Someone had washed it, kept it clean, kept it ready for her, whether consciously or not. "Thank you," she whispered. Daniel nodded once, just once. Then he turned and walked back upstairs. Not running, not hurrying, just walking away calmly, deliberately. His footsteps faded. His bedroom door clicked shut quietly. A moment later, the guitar started again. But the melody was different now. Still sad, still filled with longing and loss. But there was something new underneath it. A thread of something that might have been hope. Or at least the possibility of hope. The beginning of maybe finding a way forward. Lisa clutched the cardigan to her chest and finally allowed herself to cry. Really cry. Not the quiet tears that had been slipping down her face, but deep, wrenching sobs that came from somewhere ancient and broken inside her. She'd hurt them all. Her daughter who couldn't trust anymore. Her son who'd had to express his pain through music because he didn't have words for it. Her husband who'd held everything together while falling apart himself. And she couldn't undo any of it. Couldn't go back and make different choices. Could only stand here in this doorway holding her old cardigan and hoping that maybe, somehow, there was still a way forward. Inside the kitchen, Tom appeared in the doorway holding 2 mugs of tea. He saw her crying and didn't look away. Didn't tell her it was okay. Didn't comfort her. Just witnessed her pain the way she'd forced him to witness his for 17 months. "You should come in," he said quietly. Not an invitation exactly. More like a statement of fact. "You're here. You've crossed some invisible line by taking the cardigan from Daniel. You might as well come all the way in." Lisa looked at the space between where she stood and where Tom stood. Such a small distance physically, miles emotionally. Could she cross it? Did she have the right to? But Daniel had given her the cardigan. That had to mean something. And Tom was offering tea. That had to mean something too. Baby steps. Tiny gestures toward the possibility of maybe eventually finding their way back to each other. She took a breath. Put 1 foot forward, then another. Crossed the threshold from outside to inside. The door was still open behind her. She wasn't ready to close it yet. Wasn't ready to commit to being fully in, but she was no longer fully out either. Progress, however small, however painful. It was progress. Lisa stood in her own home feeling like an intruder. She'd taken off her shoes by habit. the muscle memory of 17 years of living here kicking in automatically. But even that small familiar gesture felt wrong now, like she was playing pretend, like she was acting out the role of someone who belonged here when she'd given up that belonging months ago. Tom set the 2 mugs of tea on the coffee table and sat down on the couch. He didn't tell her to sit, didn't gesture to a chair, just sat there waiting to see what she'd do. The choice was hers. Lisa walked slowly into the living room, still holding the cardigan Daniel had given her. She sat in the armchair across from Tom, not beside him. That felt right somehow, distance, space, they needed both. The tea sat between them, steam rising from the mugs. Neither reached for theirs. "So," Tom said finally. His voice was neutral, carefully neutral. "You're back." "I'm back," Lisa agreed. Such simple words for such a complicated truth. For how long? The question hung in the air. Fair question, logical question. After all, she'd left once. What was to stop her from leaving again? "For good," Lisa said. "If you'll let me, if there's any chance at all of fixing this." Tom looked at her, really looked at her, taking in the changes. The gray in her hair she hadn't bothered to color, the way her clothes hung on a thinner frame, the lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before. Evidence of her own journey, her own pain. "I don't know if it can be fixed," he said honestly. "I don't know if we can go back to what we were." "I don't want to go back," Lisa said. "We can't go back. I know that. But maybe we can find a way forward. Maybe." He didn't sound convinced, didn't sound hopeful. Just tired, so tired. They sat in silence. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, counting seconds that felt like hours. Somewhere in the house, the refrigerator hummed. Outside, a car drove past. Normal sounds of normal life going on around them while their own lives hung in the balance. "Where were you?" Tom asked quietly. Lisa had known this question was coming, had practiced answers, but now sitting here she realized there was no good answer. No explanation that would make it make sense. A lot of places. Small towns mostly. I worked odd jobs, waitressing, cleaning hotel rooms. I stayed in cheap motels and hostels. I walked, I thought. I tried to figure out who I was when I wasn't being a wife and mother. "And did you figure it out?" "Some of it," Lisa admitted. "I figured out that I'd lost myself somewhere along the way. Not because of you or the kids. Because of me. Because I'd spent so long being what everyone needed that I forgot I was supposed to be someone too." Tom nodded slowly. "You could have done that here. You could have talked to me. We could have figured it out together. I know that now. But at the time, I couldn't see any other way. I felt like I was drowning, and I thought the only way to breathe was to get away from everything that was pulling me under." "We weren't pulling you under," Tom said, and there was hurt in his voice now. "We were your family. We loved you. I know you did. I know you do. But sometimes love isn't enough when you don't love yourself." It was the truest thing she'd said, the core of it. She hadn't loved herself, hadn't even known herself, and she'd thought that leaving was the only way to find that love, that knowledge. She'd been wrong about the method, but she hadn't been wrong about needing to find it. Tom picked up his tea and took a sip. "Rachel hates you right now." "I know." Daniel's heartbroken. "I know. Tom stopped. Started again. "I don't know what I am." Angry, relieved, confused, hurt, all of it at once. "That's fair," Lisa said. "That's more than fair." They fell into silence again, but it was different this time. Less hostile. Still painful, still heavy, but with maybe the tiniest crack of possibility in it. "I saw a therapist," Lisa said. "While I was gone. Found one who worked on a sliding scale in some town in Pennsylvania. Saw her for 3 months before I moved on. And